This is the NEMSIS V3 implementation phone call for June 12th, 2019. This is Julianne Ehlers. I'll be hosting today, and thanks for jumping on. This is a conversation, so please feel free to ask questions, offer your comments. You can do that through voice or also using our chat feature, and we'll watch that. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. So we're going to go ahead and start off this meeting with Bridget. She's going to talk to us about the annual meeting coming up.
Thanks, Julianne. I'm going to go ahead and take your screen. Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to do a quick walkthrough with you guys to make sure that you guys have all the tools that you guys need in order to get yourselves registered for the annual meeting coming up in August. We're super, super excited about this meeting. It's going to be a ton of stuff, and it's going to be fantastic, and you guys definitely need to be there if you can. So following the links through, it's on the website. So just come through, find that tab on that dashboard. Make sure that you come in and register for the next NEMSIS annual meeting. All of the links are working. We had a little bit of an issue beginning on, but everything is working now. You are more than welcome just to walk through. Super easy registration. It's kind of self-explanatory. Also, make sure that if you're going to be a state EMS or a data manager and you're going to be able to make it for that boot camp, make sure that you go ahead and list that on here for us so we know. That way we can make sure our head count is going to be up to date. Remember, our boot camp is going to be fantastic. It's going to be a great refresher course for everybody that can make it. Also, if you're new to the position or you have any questions about it, jump in there. If you guys can get in on Sunday evening, definitely come in. It's going to be well worth your time to be able to do that. Just walk through. This is pretty self-explanatory. It's going to walk you through. For your hotel registration, you can just click through off of this front page also. And then you're just going to do the NEMSIS code, the NEMSIS 2019, and then go ahead and submit. And it gives you the option to jump in here on that Silver Baron, put in your arrival date, your departure date, and gives you the options for your standard room or the 1-bedroom suite. And I believe if they're still available, there are some 2 bedrooms and also 3-bedroom suites. If you guys are able to combine and you guys are able to share rooms, you guys are more than welcome to do that also. And then just accept all of your stuff, get your credit card numbers in, and then just go ahead and submit. And then they'll update me as far as if there's any issues or any problems along with yourselves. If there's any questions on this, feel free, reach out, give me a call, send me an email. I can help you walk through it, not a worry at all. And I'll send you guys my email and my phone number through the group chat. So if you need that. And then I'm going to leave you alone after this. I think Clay wants to kind of walk over the agenda with you guys. So hang tight for that.
Hey Bridget, it's Lisa.
Yeah.
So I noticed that we don't see the 2 and 3 bedrooms, but if anybody wants to book those, they can just contact you directly. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
and then I can always double check and make sure that they're still available. There is that possibility because we don't normally hold those 2 and 3 bedroom suites in our block.
Okay.
So there is that chance of those to be sold out, but I can always double check with the Silver Baron and see where they are with those.
Great. Thank you.
You bet. And there's going to be lots of bacon. Don't forget the bacon.
All right, this is Clay. I'm going to walk through the agenda a little bit. If you'd go to the agenda, that would be great, Bridget. So I just don't, oh, okay. I can share my screen if you'd like me to.
Whatever is the easiest for you.
I'll just go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
So yeah, for those who have stayed in the suites, if several folks are coming from your company, the 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom suites are very, very nice with large sitting areas, full kitchens. You won't feel like you're on top of each other at all. They're very, very nice, so that's a good option. All right, so just wanted to go through some of the recent changes to the agenda. As you know, we got this out early just for states and vendors who needed to have an agenda to approve their travel. We continue to modify the agenda, making sure that we have it completely packed with valuable information for those who attend and the most timely information. So just wanted to draw your attention to a couple of items here. So Bridget mentioned the boot camp. Would love to have folks attending that. If you're new to as a state data manager or need a refresher course, this is the time to learn about what is the state data set, why do we do the state data set, what's the best approach to custom elements, and some of the new things that are coming down the road. How will I be able to utilize UUID in the future with version 3.5? So lots of your questions will be answered. Would love to have you there.
Hey, Clay, we're not seeing the agenda right now.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, maybe make sure that the share worked. Is that better?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, great. Yeah, sorry about that. That may have been my fault. So would love to have you at the boot camp if you're an EMS official. Then on the agenda, you'll notice that I've been able to fill this out a little bit. We're really pleased with the fact that we should have a large representation from the Office of EMS at NHTSA again, which would just be great to have them there with us so that we can look at national issues that are happening. A lot is going on in regards to the NEMSIS standard, and so they will be incredibly valuable to have them this year. Related to that is the item that was added for 9:30 in the morning on the first day. The new ET3 project that's being done through the Innovation Center with CMS is really moving forward, and they have a very aggressive timeline. As folks probably know, there is great interest among CMS in utilizing NEMSIS data to address this just incredible experiment, I guess is the best way to describe it. And they'd like to be able to have the data flow directly into servers there at CMS. So they're working through that process now. They've had a couple of just kind of introductory phone calls with a subset of vendors just to get an idea for what's happening now. But those calls, I imagine, will continue through the summer. And then we're hoping by the time we get to August, there may be additional questions, but there will be probably some refined ideas about how that would happen. So that will be an incredible opportunity for both vendors and state data managers to understand how that data transfer will work for the 40 plus sites, I think, across the country that will be participating in ET3. So that's a great addition. You'll also notice that there are breakout sessions again for the afternoon of the first day. Those have been incredibly successful in the past. This year, the breakout sessions will be set into just two, a vendor session and then a data manager session. We have a number of issues that we would just like to continue to refine. One of those is the use of the demographic data set. We'll talk more about that in a minute when we speak about the submissions we've received for 2018 and 2019. But the demographic files from EMS agencies, we need to somehow grease that process. And I think there's opinions on both the vendor side and the data manager side as to the value of that data set and to how best to manage that data set. So I think this idea will be a good one. Also, the Office of EMS at NHTSA has asked that that they be able to have an audience with both these major groups of participants, and so there'll be a section associated with an agenda that's built for both the vendor session and the data manager session, where you'll have kind of a closed period to talk to the Office of EMS about some issues. So that's another great addition. Again, it's business casual this meeting, but we would love to have you just bring some casual clothes on that first night. We'll be going up to the Park City Mountain Resort where the Alpine Slide is, the mountain coaster, zip lines, other things there. You'll have a paid pass to be able to participate in that. It's covered just in your the cost for the meeting. So would love to have you for that. So we'll continue to refine this this agenda, and anytime there is a revision, we'll post it on the website with the current date. So that's just my update in regards to the agenda. Any questions about the meeting for either myself or Bridget? Okay, great, Julianne. I'll turn the screen back over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Clay. Hopefully you all can see the NEMSIS main page. I'm going to show you where to find some of the support materials that we've provided for you. Just right off of the main page, you can come to View Reports. EMS Data Cube. This takes you to where you can access the public data cube. And if you go down that page, scroll down that page a little bit, you've got 5 options for simple, straightforward, short videos on how to use the cube. This is the public cube. These take you straight to our YouTube page. And on the Data Cube Primer, you've got these options for learning how to just do simple things. This is a great refresher if you haven't dug into the cube recently, looked through. There's so much great information available to you through the data cubes. So we just wanted to show you that those resources are available. We're also providing a page on the website for support materials, an image library, the infographics that we've been working on. I wanted to also say thank you to Jen Correa and Robin Hughes, Amanda from Image Trend. They've been really helpful in providing some good feedback on the infographics that we've been developing, and those are about ready to go out the door and be available to you for your use in your teaching and training. Any questions on support materials that are available to you? Excellent. We are now going to go over to Josh. Josh, I will let the screen go so that you can pull it up.
Okay, great.
There you go.
All right, we'll get that going. Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. We are pleased to announce that the NEMSIS 3 Performance Measures web service and Performance Measures dashboard have gone live and are now publicly available. This was a project that took years, and finally we got the right people together, and over the past few months we were able to complete the project. As a reminder, this Performance Measures project makes national level performance measure data available for software developers to integrate into the analytical reporting features of their software. And also, we have a public dashboard that anyone can access on the NEMSIS website to see national level performance measure data based on the EMS Compass performance measures. I'm going to quickly show you what's available today and then announce some upcoming training sessions where we'll go in depth on using these resources. So first of all, in the View Reports menu, you can go to Public Reports. You can also go to EMS Agency Reports, and we're on the Public Reports page here. We'll go to Version 3 Dashboards, and the one that's been added to the top of that page is the Performance Measures Dashboard. So this is the kind of the end user product that NEMSIS TAC will provide that people in EMS agencies or the general public could use. I'm going to bring up the dashboard, and we'll do kind of a quick run through of this dashboard. Again, we'll be scheduling a training to go more in depth. The Performance Measures dashboard currently supports 3 performance measures from the EMS Compass project. And we have a plan to come out with additional performance measures on a 2-month schedule. So the 4th performance measure will come out by the end of August of this year, and then the 5th one by the end of October, and etc. In total, there are about 13, I think, performance measures from the EMS Compass project that can be calculated using national data. And so it'll be over a period of a couple of years that will, or a year and a half or so, that will roll out those additional measures. This is showing us Trauma-01 pain assessment of injured patients. In a few minutes, I'll show you how to get documentation about that specific measure. It shows a performance trend over time. And then it allows us to break that performance down by different attributes, geography. And we can drill down in geography, so we get basically the census regions, and then we can go down to census divisions. Urbanicity, organization status of the agency that responded to the call, organization type of the agency, the agency's annual patient contact volume. This has been calculated based on actual data received in the system because we're going to be deprecating, or not deprecating, but demoting the agency annual stats elements as national elements in NEMSIS 3.5. So we've designed this to look at how many actual records we've received from agencies per year to figure out their volume. And finally, by level of care. So, for example, if we wanted to see, say I work in a fire department and I want to compare my performance to other fire departments, then I could click on fire department and it's going to rerun these other graphs so that now we're looking at just fire departments. So we see the overall performance for fire departments and break it down by different areas. Say I'm an urban fire department, so I want to compare myself to other urban fire departments. I can click on urban, and again, the measure has been updated to look at urban fire departments. And finally, let's say, well, I'm a BLS level fire department. So I could click on that. Now I'm looking at BLS urban fire departments and can compare my performance, if I have those numbers myself, to national level performance on that performance measure. Similarly, I could look at stroke-01 or trauma-01. Stroke-01 is suspected stroke patients who received a stroke assessment. And we can compare performance there and take a look at those trends. Okay, documentation for the dashboard and for the measures themselves. Whoops, let me go back to the public reports page. There's a performance measures dashboard user guide that you can look at. In particular, this user guide will outline all of those different attributes that I demonstrated and describe precisely where those attributes come from, which NEMSIS data elements we used to come up with those attributes, any calculations that were done, etc. Also, if you look in this section, select a performance measure, we have a link here to the V3 performance measures, or you'll see it over here in the menu as well. And that page is the page that we will maintain with the performance measures that are currently supported by the service. So we currently have these 3 performance measures, and we'll be adding several more over the next year. So if you want to know exactly how seizure-01 is defined, described, and calculated, this is from the EMS Compass project and has just been put onto this page and formatted for viewing so that you have this precise definition of how this performance measure is calculated. So that's the dashboard, and that we think will be useful to EMS agencies and even the general public. But the dashboard's not the only thing that we published in this project. The API, or web service, is the other thing, and that's the thing that we want vendors to be aware of, software developers to utilize. I'm going to just quickly, again, demonstrate the web service, and then we'll do a more in-depth training in a couple weeks. The web service has 3 operations available in it. These operations allow you then to build software that gets performance measured data and then provides or displays that performance measured data to your customers. This is the list benchmarks request. Submit a request and you'll see a list of the benchmarks that are currently, the performance measures that are currently supported by the web service. As we roll out additional measures, they will show up in this response. Second, there's a list parameters request. When you run that request, you get a list of all of those different dimensions or attributes by which the data can be sliced and filtered, and get the codes associated with each of those. And finally, there's a retrieve benchmark request where you can put in a request. For example, here we're requesting data for stroke-01. We want to filter urbanicity to a particular value, and we want to segment the data by calendar month. And then in return, you get a message like this that shows you stroke-01 with that urbanicity filter and segmented by calendar month. And here's the actual data with numerator and denominator for each month from 2017 to current, so up to June of 2019. The Performance Measures web service and dashboard will keep 2 past years plus the current year of data. So at the end of 2019, the 2017 data will go away. We'll have 2018, 2019, and then 2020 as the year happens. Documentation for the web service has been finalized. It describes, kind of the concept here of how your software could include this data in reports that you build for your agencies. It goes through the technical details and shows an example implementation here where a software product is showing their customer what the customer's performance is, and they're comparing that to the national level performance trend. This documentation is just being prepared for publication on the NEMSIS website right now, so in the coming days we'll get that available on the website and announced. Okay, we have 2 training sessions that we're going to do regarding the Performance Measures project. First, tentatively, we are hoping to train data managers during the NESEMSO DMC monthly call, which is happening next Tuesday, the 18th. We don't quite have confirmation on that yet, but that's our tentative plan. So that'll be for data managers. We'll also have a technical training call that's for software developers, where we focus on the web service and how to utilize it. That technical training we have scheduled to be on our next V3 implementation call. So this call, 2 weeks from today, Wednesday, June 26th. So we'll take a good chunk of the time of that call to go through a detailed training on how vendors can utilize the Performance Measure web service. Okay, I'll stop there and see, of course, we'll have these 2 in-depth trainings, but I'd be happy to answer any kind of high-level questions at this point too. So any questions on the Performance Measure web service or the upcoming trainings? Okay, if not, then I'll turn it back to Julianne.
Thank you, Josh. We appreciate that. Next up is Laurel with Candidate Release Review.
Hi, everyone. So I'm just going to kind of go over some stuff we've already talked about. Hopefully you can all see the timeline of the 350 revision on my screen. Is that what you all see?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. I just want to be sure. So right now it is June of 2019, and we have just put out our candidate release. The final release is scheduled to be done by the end of September of this year. That's this little flag right here. What we're planning on doing is working through any change requests or additional modifications we get in the next few months, and then maybe doing, for the data dictionary at least, a V2 of the candidate release right before the annual meeting, and just giving everyone a chance to maybe talk about in the meeting if we got everything in there. And then hopefully there are no further changes and we can just wrap everything up in September and finalize it. So that's the schedule we're on. After the standard is finalized in September, we're going to get to work on preparing for compliance testing and then eventually data acceptance in February of 2020. So right now from the V350 revision page, which is that big link on the front of the website, you can view all of the candidate release materials by clicking this first button. So there's the data dictionary in the web view. You can download it as a PDF. There's also the very, very lengthy change log. if you just want to look through changes. We have all the Schematron rules, as well as downloads of the actual Schematron files, Excel documents that list out the requirements and conceptual design, as well as the APIs for each of the data sets, which are kind of like a web-based documentation that sort of shows the structure of the XSD schema. I know that many of you have looked at this because we've received quite a few comments. So please keep reviewing, and please send us your comments so we can make sure that we have everything perfect for the final release. Any comments we receive, we are putting into the public JIRA dashboard that we used to build this candidate release. So from the 350 page, that's this last button, you can click how can I follow along, and on that page there's a link to the public JIRA project where you can see what tasks we are working on. So just opening up right now, you can see that there's nothing in progress at the moment, but we are still collecting candidate reviews from lots of different individuals. And we'll work through those and have them all done by the annual meeting. You can also see that we've got quite a lot of closed issues. So that's where things stand. I just want to thank everyone for all their help in getting the next version of the NEMSIS standard ready to go, and for all the wonderful feedback we've received from the very beginning up until now. Does anyone have any questions about this? Awesome. Okay. Well, I think that's all I had for you today. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Julianne.
All right, let's talk for just a second on refinement of suggested lists. This was a huge issue that came up during the NEMSIS meetings that we attended a few weeks ago, and we wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that we heard you loud and clear, and that's something that we've been working on. Where if you look, okay, so if we go to the website, let's go to technical resources and resources. We're working on updating the suggested list so that we can provide states and vendors with lists that represent 90% of the events. And that way you're only looking up 10% of events for those very specific ICD-10 codes. So the first one that we're working on updating is the e-injury 01, and just providing a little bit sharper focus on the suggested list that represent the bulk of the EMS events that we're experiencing. So that's just a reminder that that's something that we're working on and that we want to be able to provide as a service to states and vendors. All right, I think we're ready for Clay. Clay's going to talk a little bit about what 2018 looks like.
Yeah, great. I'm gonna share my screen again here. Let's see. Okay, great. Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the closure of the national 2018 data set, and maybe talk a little bit about where we are with 2019 submissions. Hopefully folks can see on their screen the Tuesday push email that NEMSIS sends out to all the states that are participating in submitting version 3 data to the NEMSIS TAC. This version is the national version that combines all of the data submitting from all states into one view. I wanted to show this for a couple of reasons. There are two things to highlight here. One is just incredibly, we've received almost 17 million records already this year. So that's just incredible. It puts us on the scale of receiving about 35 million per year. Why that is so heartening for us here at the Technical Assistance Center is really, it shows that the system is working, right? That we can really handle the volume of all EMS runs across the entire country using this the current system. The vendors have stepped up to the plate. We've added some additional resources on our end, and now we're receiving great flow and receiving many records. In regards to the closure of 2018, a fair amount of this 17 million you see was actually states wanting to catch up a little bit with their 2018 data. So really many states came on to submitting data to the National Registry in 2018, 2019. So many states wanted to catch up. We've left the 2018 data open and to collect for the public release research data till this point, because there were a number of states that wanted to catch up. So we're preparing now to close that data set. You'll remember, if you've been associated with the NEMSIS project for a number of years, under version 2, we used to have these massive call for datas in the spring of each year, trying to ensure that all states had submitted all of their records for the previous year. Well, now under version 3, with close to real-time data submission, we just expect that closely after the end of a year that the data could be complete. But there were a number of states that wanted to catch up, so that data set is closing. It will have close to 21 million records available for research purposes, and we will finalize that data set and make that available by the end of this month. So that's just great news that the process is working as well as we can expect. The other issue, of course, is the collection of 2019 data. Interestingly, among the 17 million that have been sent to us, there is about 9 million records that are associated with 2019. So you can see the volume that we've received from states who wanted to catch up a little bit. We're a little bit under schedule with the 9 million records, and I think that is partially due as we've been working with a couple of vendors on the idea of these demographic data sets that we quote require before we receive a patient care report from those agencies. That's been in an effort to just make sure we have good characterization of all of our agencies across the country. That seems to be the bottleneck, and so we're working with a number of agencies to see if we can fix those issues. Trying to really make this a concerted effort over the summer so that we can come to the meeting in the fall with hopefully some good recommendations both on the state side as well as the vendor side as to how to facilitate the collection of that data that characterizes agencies. So we'll be talking more about that. But if you are a state data manager and you know that there's some issues with your DEM files, or if you don't know you have issues and you want to kind of have a better understanding of that, please feel free to call Monet. We have some short-term solutions that we're trying to socialize across the country that may help the data collection this summer until we can decide on kind of a consensus direction that we'll take after our meeting in Deer Valley in August. So those are my 2 updates in regards to the closure of 2018 data. Congratulations, everyone, for just a great data collection. 2017, our introduction to version 3 closed with just under 8 million records. We'll close 2018 with just under 21 million records. Just shows great effort across the country to be able to ensure we have a national registry that will benefit all of us. So again, thank you for that, and I'll turn the time back over to you, Julianne. Any questions about data collection, either 2018 or the current 2019 data collection? Okay, good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Clay. We appreciate that. Let's go ahead and open this up. Anybody that's got questions or comments, this is a great opportunity for you to bring those up. It could be on a topic that we've addressed today or something that you've had on your mind for NEMSIS v3 implementation. We'll open that up to you guys.
This is Josh. We have a late addition to the agenda, which is a Schematron update. Would it be all right if I cover that now?
Oh, absolutely. Plus, that gives everybody time to think about what they want to talk about. So do you need the screen for that, Josh?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, great, thank you. We have published a small update to the national Schematron schemas for NEMSIS 3.4.0. That release is tagged 3.4.0.190607, so it's tagged as basically last Friday. And I want to just walk you through a few minor changes that we made. First of all, there are no changes to the schema for demographic data. It's just the build number that changes, that's all. There are some changes in the EMS data set, Schematron schema. A few kind of documentation / code commenting type changes, which I'm not going to run through, but I'll show you where to find those. What I want to run through is the changes that actually affect validation of patient care reports. The effects of these changes are to relax some validation constraints. In other words, some patient care report documents that would have failed validation in the older version would now pass in this release. Some warnings that would have been present in the previous version would go away in this version. So the end effect is accepting more patient care reports, rejecting fewer patient care reports. Because of that, I would recommend that this update be deployed by state systems first, so that they will begin accepting data that they may not have accepted in the past. And once state systems have deployed, it would be reasonable for local systems to then deploy the update. Okay, here's what's changing, or what changed. We have this rule here that says when resuscitation attempted by EMS contains attempted ventilation, then type of CPR provided should contain ventilation. In type of CPR provided, there's a choice called compressions intermittent with ventilation. That choice now satisfies this assertion. In the past, it did not. So that's a warning that could potentially go away on a patient care report, on a few patient care reports. I should probably pause to make sure if there's any questions on each of these. We have, I think, like half a dozen of these that we're going to go through. Any questions on this one?
Is there, can we find these later?
Yes, I'll show you where the change log and the updated files are.
Great, thank you.
All right, second one, when type of destination is hospital or freestanding emergency department, hospital capability should be recorded. That's what the rule used to say. We've narrowed down this rule so that it actually applies in fewer cases. So it used to apply whenever the destination was a hospital or a freestanding ED, we expected hospital capability to be recorded. Now we're only going to trigger this rule if the destination was hospital or freestanding ED, and either cardiac arrest was yes, or there was a positive stroke scale, or there was a STEMI cardiac rhythm that was recorded on the call. So in a small percentage of patient care reports, we are going to look for hospital capability to be recorded. All right, so again, this rule, this warning will trigger on fewer PCRs than it did before. This rule we have removed. This was a warning. When type of destination is not hospital or freestanding ED, then the following should be set to not applicable: hospital inpatient destination and hospital capability. So that rule is being removed. Any questions on those two rules? Okay. Based on incident patient disposition, the following should be recorded: EMS transport method, transport mode from scene, reason for choosing destination, and type of destination. All four of those used to be part of an error message. So if those were not recorded, there was an error and the PCR was rejected by the receiving system. those are being dialed down to be part of a warning message instead. So PCRs that were previously rejected due to this rule would now be accepted. A warning would be thrown, but they would be accepted. Questions on that one? Okay, I think, yeah, last one here. When medication dosage is recorded, medication dosage units should be recorded. That one is being dialed down from an error to a warning. Any questions on that one?
This is Bridget. Just why are you changing it to a warning?
Yeah, that was actually next on my list. So as we prepared the NEMSIS Schematron rules for NEMSIS 3.5, the kind of, I guess you could say the architectural approach or philosophical approach was that anything that, any kind of issue that is probably caused by a software problem is going to be an error. Anything that could have been entered by an EMS personnel filling out a report and they just entered some things wrong or skipped something, those are being set as warnings. And this is one of those cases where you know, a provider could record a dosage and forget to record the dosage units.
But
Not
shouldn't
necessarily.
we be enforcing better behavior for the providers?
Yeah, yeah. But the consensus around the country has been that states would rather receive a record, even if it has problems, than to reject that record. And so the push nationally has been for the national validation rules to lean more heavily on warnings and less on errors. And that's what we're going to see.
But that means you're never going to get those pieces of data filled in.
No, we have seen great progress in response to warnings in the national rules. So if we look over the past couple of years, the number of Schematron warnings on incoming files has gone down. It's been a downward trend. So we do see that people are in fact responding to warnings over time. Usually it's you know, kind of a change of behavior over time, but it allows at least for the states to receive those records rather than being forced to reject the records. Now, at a state level, you could decide in our state that's going to be an error, and that's
yeah, I
just
mean
fine.
that's why it's been helpful for you guys to have had things be errors, so I could use that as well. It's a national rule; you have to follow it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This is yeah. This is Clay the Tack. I'll just kind of reiterate that a little bit. It's a great question, Ridgely. Why are we making any of this be?
It feels like we're going backwards. That's all.
Right. Right. And I can completely understand that. Some of the corrections are actually some of the restrictions needed to be loosened. We can talk about those, and maybe once.
Yeah, it's something like this one. It seems like, you know, you should know what the units is if you're putting in a dose.
Right. Right. The problem was, depending on how this is implemented, there are circumstances where if this error occurred, what ends up happening, of course, is the record is never received by the state, so they never even know that there's a problem, let alone that there's a record. So to ensure that those states can at least receive the record and then can document the error, by removing this as an error and making it a warning, now all states will receive those records and can document those problems that are in the records. But the problem was that we had states that just would never receive a record if this error occurred, so they never knew that an error occurred. And if depending upon the provider, they may not make note that they've made this kind of communication in their data set. So again, it was just it was a problem where if this error occurred, we lost the record completely, and there was no way to try to change behavior. So that's kind of why this is being adjusted.
Okay, I kind of philosophically disagree, but it sounds like there's bigger. greater powers at work here than myself.
And there have been opinions on both sides of, there are those who have had the opinion that, hey, we should have more and more things go to error. And
I don't think that everything should be error, but I mean when it clearly makes sense and there's no reason that they shouldn't be filling it out.
Right. There's never a case where there's not a way to satisfy this assertion. Right. There's always a unit that you can pick, even if that unit is other, or if that unit is something called units. I gave.
And I've been selling V3 on the fact that data is going to be better because of the Schematron rules.
Yeah.
So for my customers, for the people that use the data, that's going kind of backwards.
Right, and yet we've had a lot of voices on the other side of that fence saying, yeah, even though this should always be something that can be responded to at the state level, we still want to be able to receive and accept the record, even though it has this problem. And the consensus has been more to that. I guess I shouldn't say consensus, but the voices have been more to that side than the other. So just allowing states to at least receive the record. However, like I said, at the state
I don't want to drag the meeting down on this, but I would like to talk to people who figured out how to get people to respond to warnings.
Okay.
That could be a different topic for a different day.
Right. Yeah. That would be a good one for us to cover. In fact, we could pull out some trends and stats from the national data. Yeah. So yeah, at the state level, you're welcome to continue to enforce it as an error.
And just a quick question. This is Amber. I know that if it's an error, the record bounces back and never makes it to our system, but won't we still be able to identify that if we look at our import history? So I know we check that weekly, and every time that something fails, we contact the agency and say, hey, you need to fix this and resend it to us. In this case, would that be shown in that error log that we use all the time?
Yeah,
that's how it works
question.
Now.
So you would see anything that was attempted to be submitted to your state system that your state system rejected. Now, the way that the standard is written, the local software should be preventing a report from even being marked complete at the local level if there's an error on that report. And if so, then that report would never even be attempted to be sent to the state because it could never be closed. Those are the cases that you may end up missing at the state level.
Okay. So all of the errors should also be closed call rules?
That's right.
Okay. Well, I have evidence on the contrary, but we can talk about that offline. Right.
Yeah, I bet you do. I do too.
Yeah. This is Clay. We know that there is clearly evidence to the contrary, and that speaks to the fact that not all products have responded completely accurately to the requirements, and so we continue to work on that to make sure that everyone is in full compliance with how the Schematron process, the business rule process, and data exchange should happen. But kind of until we get complete agreement, it just makes more sense to make sure that folks get to see the data. But that's a great question, Amber. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for those questions. Other questions? Okay, the updated Schematron rules, the national rules, are available through the technical resources menu, the Schematron page on the NEMSIS website. The online data dictionary view of those updated rules is available for people to browse through. The rules themselves available for download. Of course, they are available through the Git repository, so we hope that software vendors are really utilizing the Git repository as their way of getting all this stuff. And the changelog, there's a link to the changelog here as well that goes through the changes that I summarized today, plus a few changes that are kind of documentation related that don't affect validation results. Okay, so again, the expectation is that this should be deployed by state systems first, and then by local systems. Okay, Clay, anything you would add on the Schematron update?
Yeah, thank you, Josh. I'll just mention just briefly the process and kind of the theory behind the inclusion of these Schematron files was the idea that we would be able to update these rules on a regular basis. We really haven't implemented that, just as we've tried to get version 3 to stand up across the country. This is our first attempt at a revision to the Schematron file for kind of at the national level. So we need to kind of work through a process how we ensure that each of the software products at the national level and at the field level implement the latest national business rules. We'll be talking about this at the meeting in August, but would love to see the states be speaking with their software companies about the need to utilize the latest Schematron files. We'll work to build a process whereby we can attempt to validate that there's been national kind of acceptance and a good saturation of the new rules. But this is really a great tool that we have, the ability to tighten these rules or to modify the rules as we add new elements, ensure that the rules are accurate and concise. So we want to make this more dynamic, where we could actually be making changes to the business rules on a more regular basis and ensure that our data gets cleaner and cleaner. So this is our first kind of attempt at that on the national level, so we appreciate your participation in helping to socialize it.
Yeah, our last update to national Schematron rules was in January of 2017, so about 2.5 years.
Yeah, and then one more thing I'll just mention just real briefly, maybe to drive home a point. I'm gonna, can I grab my screen back?
Yeah, I'll turn off mine here.
Okay, Josh, I'll just briefly share this same report that comes out on Tuesdays. You can see that really the bulk of records have at least one warning associated with them when they reach the National Registry, 73%. 60% of those errors are related to e-disposition 21, where Josh was talking about that if you indicate that a patient's going to be arriving at a hospital or a freestanding ED, that you need to indicate the capabilities of those hospitals. I think a lot of states have had trouble with those, particularly our providers, in that they had to indicate hospital capability for all types of patients that were going to the hospital, where really all we're mostly interested in time-sensitive issues and whether they're going to the right hospital. So changing those warnings associated with e-disposition 21 will really drop the number of errors that you're seeing on your state level, and hopefully this report will become a lot more meaningful to you, right? I think a lot of states have said, oh my gosh, I've got a lot of PCR warnings, but they're all just related to e-disposition 21. I don't care about that. So I think by tightening these up and making them more clear, I think this report will be more valuable to you and allow you to really dig in and find those agencies that need some education. All right, thanks, great.
Okay, that takes care of that update, Julianne.
Excellent. Thank you, Josh. Thanks, Clay. Rachel and Amber, thank you for participating. Those are great questions that we'd like to follow up on as well. Are there any other concerns or questions that anyone would like to bring up? Just a note on the upcoming meetings, the July 24 meeting is a Utah state holiday, so that one will be canceled. I know many of you do not get to enjoy the 24th as a state holiday, but we will all be out of the office. Our next meeting is June 26th, and as Josh mentioned earlier, we'll be doing he'll be doing some technical training on performance measures and dashboard. So look for that invitation for the June 26th meeting. If there isn't any other questions or concerns, we'll go ahead and close this meeting. Thank you so much for participating, for taking time out of your day. We appreciate that commitment. Thank you all and have a terrific day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.